All right, we'll be in the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board for Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. Present at the front table to my far left is Jessica Battaglia, a voting member.
Thank
Next to Jessica is Ed McGargy, a voting member.
Good evening.
To my left, Ernie Angelos, our solicitor.
Good evening.
My immediate right, Bill Rhodes, a voting member. Next to Bill is Jesse Poyton, a voting member. And to the far right, my far right is Kelly Kirk, our Township Zoning Officer. We have two new cases this evening and an administrative matter that we'll take care of at the end of the hearing. But before we begin, Bill, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Please rise if you can, repeat after me.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first new case this evening is Z23-26, Leonard Country Club, owner of 950 Westchester Pike, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2209-0271500, who seeks a variance from the provisions of section 182-602C7 to construct a 90-foot high protective net with fencing exceeding the maximum height restriction of 35 feet in accordance with an order of the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas. Property is owned institutional and located in the 2nd Ward.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I am a full member and certificate holder at Leonard Country Club, so I'm going to recuse myself from this case, and I just want to get that on the record.
Okay. Jim?
Thank you. Board, please. My name is Jim Byrne. I'm glad to see you all again. It's been a while since I've been on this side of the table. I have some exhibits here tonight, and I'm representing Lanark, obviously. I have some exhibits. I'd like to hand them up if I could.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
So as I said, my ID number is 41619, and I'm representing Lanark Country Club here tonight. I have with me two folks from Lanark that I'd like to take a second to introduce. One is Chris Wilkinson, who's the general manager of the club, and he will be our witness tonight. He'll be testifying. And I also have John Giangiulio, who is a member of the executive board, and word is he might be the president coming up. So we have both of those witnesses here tonight. If I could start by way of an opening.
Yes, just for the purposes of the record, good evening, gentlemen. I am Michael Dignazio. I'm counsel for the two individuals who have party status before you this evening, that one being my son Robert, and then the other being Mr. Brian Griffin, who is not here this evening.
Just for the record, Mr. Dignazio did send in a letter, an entry of appearance in this matter. I believe the two individuals that he represents are parties to the Court of Common Pleas case, which is what was, we're here based on that order and the request of Lanark. Just clarify that for the record. I do believe, as a result, Mr. Dignazio's clients do have party status.
And I would have no objection to that.
Well, I need to. My Supreme Court ID number is 17531.
I thought it was 175.
Like I'm 207.
I thought he was really 175. I'm sorry, I'm only kidding. So if we could, by way of introduction, Lanark Country Club, I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's has a storied history in Philadelphia golf and actually in Philadelphia history. And if I could just give you a little bit of a background on it so you know where we're going here tonight. The club dates back to 1901. At that time, it was originally the Delaware County Country Club. After a few years, it merged with the Philadelphia Athletic Club and became the Delaware County Country Club. In 1914, that merger ended, and it became the Bon Air Country Club. In 1918, it was destroyed by fire. From the 1910 through 1929, it was owned by Thomas Fitzgerald of the Fitzgerald name that you're all familiar with in Delaware County. And it's been a very special golf course. In 1958, I'm going to give you a little bit of interesting information, at least I think it's interesting. In 1958, it held the PGA championship at Lanark. And not only did it hold the PGA championship, but it was also the first CBS network presentation of a golf outing live. So that's pretty neat. It had some players you might remember: Dal Fisterwald, Sam Snead, Billy Casper, Ben Sarazan, and Ken Ventura, as well as a young rookie coming up by the name of Arnold Palmer. So, and it's gone on since then to have a number of different tournaments, hosted a number of tournaments, and it's been a real pleasure to have it in the community, I believe. I did include in the booklets that you have there as Exhibit F a more detailed history. So I wanted you to take a minute, not right necessarily now, but maybe tonight or something, to take a look at that. It's really pretty interesting of how much a part of the community Lanark has been. We went through great strides through the years to keep the golf course, the integrity of the golf course over the years. And I want to show you, if I could now, a film that is real short, but it will give you a feel for what the course looks like and what the course, and then we'll have some testimony about how the course has maintained that character through the years. So can I try that right now? Yeah, he showed me everything.
Thousands swarm over the Lanark Country Club near Philadelphia for the Professional Golfers Association Championship, first ever decided by stroke play. Here's Julius Boros, 1952 Open champion. Tommy Bolts, the present Open king. A newcomer, Bill Casper, playing by special invitation and only a stroke from the top. Jackie Burke, 1956 Masters champion. Jay Hebert, defending PGA champion. And heading mate Sam Snead, winner of over 100 tournaments. Two strokes back of Snead, Dal Finsterwald, a young pro who's been knocking on the door of victory for months, always falling just short. Snead, after two straight 67s, is a heavy favorite, and Sam starts out to tear the field apart. He scores two birdies on the first three holes. Then Finsterwald catches fire, and with some accurate shooting, he wipes out Snead's lead. At the long, back-breaking ninth hole, some of the leaders drilled the cup like it was the size of a wash tub. First Boros. Then Mayer, but Suchak's in the way. Move over, Mike. Thanks. Suchak decides to get in on the fun, too. Young Casper is still hanging in there. This shot out of a trap will explain why he's up there. Our cameraman draws a bead on Casper, and he draws one on the cup. Now the charge of the thundering herd, chasing the battle between Snead and Finsterwald, but the strokes are slipping away from Sam. This curling putt gives Finsterwald a blistering 31 on the first nine, a two-stroke lead over Snead. Then the galleries pack around the last green for the finish.
I don't want to go on too much longer. What I wanted you to see was there was some photos of the ninth hole, which is what we're going to talk here about tonight a little bit. And I'll have Chris explain to you what it was as we go on. But I just thought that was a pretty cool clip from back in the day to show you how long there's been tournament play at Lanark Country Club and how tournament play has continued there since then. And it's really a special course. I don't know if any of you really read much about golf or anything, but there's a local golf historian, and his name is Jim Finnegan, and he had written a book recently, and he said that after visiting Lanark after the changes that were recently made, which were not big changes to the course, as I said, the integrity of the course stayed the same. But he said that in his writing, I hope they do not change anything here. The course is perfect. And then Stephen Kay, who was the architect for the course, after for the changes on the course, he's from a local golf course architect, and he said this was a very exciting project for us to take a classic golf course, modernize it, but keep the same historic feel. Is a dream job for any architect. I think Lanark can stand up to any of them in the Philadelphia area. So why are we here then, right? Okay, we have, say, we got this beautiful course, and we've been here since 1901. Why are we here in front of you today? Well, we like to think of ourselves as good neighbors to the community, and in fact, as Mr. Rhodes recused himself, there's many residents that are members. That's where the membership come from. Is a lot of Haverford residents. More than half the club is Haverford residents, and then others are very close to the area. So we like to keep a good relationship with our neighbors if we can. But like any relationship with neighbors, I guess if you go 140 years, you're going to have a couple bumps along the way. And we ran into a little bump recently on the ninth hole. Ninth hole is a par 5. It's really a kind of a signature hole in the course, and it plays uphill if you've been there. And there are some neighbors that lived on the course that were experiencing some balls going into their backyard. If you look at Exhibit D in your binder there, you'll see that there was a complaint started, and one of the things that the neighbors asked for was a net. And it was, I think Mr. Ignazio, you saw tonight, and he's here on behalf of his son, Mr. Ignazio, as well as Brian Griffin, who both live on Country Club Lane. And they wanted, as part of their case, they asked the judge for at least a 100-foot net. And the case went out to Delaware County, and it bounced around with doing pleadings and things, but ultimately ended up before Judge Dozer. Judge Dozer, after a day-long conference with us all, tried to come up with an order that would give us the relief we needed to keep our course in the same condition as it is, but give the neighbors what they needed as well. So if you look at Exhibit E, you'll see the order that Judge Dozer came up with. And the order says that we should construct a net 90 feet high, and that net should go along the 500 and 600 blocks of Country Club Lane on the ninth hole, on our property. He also ordered that we take a look at the landscaping, replace some dead trees with new trees that were 8 foot or above. And we said, well, let us talk to the board, and we'll see what we can do. So we went back to the board, and as I said, in a spirit of trying to be good neighbors, the board has approved us to submit this application. And that's why we're here tonight. Okay, so I think I guess what Judge Dozer was thinking when he did this was that good neighbors make good fences, or good fences make good neighbors, I guess is the best thing I can think about it. And that's why we're here asking you for the relief. This is located in an institutional district. and I met with Kelly, and some of the folks from Lanark met with Kelly as well, and we learned that the height limitation in the institutional district is 35 feet. So this net at the height that Judge Dozer wanted it is, going to need some relief in form of a variance. There is a provision in your code about fences around, like tennis courts and other recreational facilities, where the zoning officer can deem that the net or the fence goes higher in a residential district. Unfortunately, though, we're not in a residential district here, so that's why we're here tonight. I'm going to call as a witness right now, if I could, Chris Wilkinson. Should I have him come up to the microphone here? Is that the
Yes.
best, bro?
Please, Jim.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear?
Christopher Wilkinson. And I am the COO at Lanark Country Club.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Okay, Mr. Wilkinson, for how long have you been the COO at Lanark Country Club?
It's my 4th year as COO, and for 10 years before that was the head golf professional.
Okay, so you know a thing or two about golf?
I do.
Okay. Can we talk first about what your duties are as the COO? What is your?
I'm also the director of golf still, so I oversee the golf department and also oversee pool, tennis, clubhouse operations, food and beverage, as well as administration of the club.
Okay. And you helped me prepare the booklet that the board all had in front of them
Yes,
tonight, right?
yes, I did.
And you heard me give my opening, and in a case like this, a little different than just coming to a meeting and making a presentation. You're sworn in to have evidence. You heard me give an opening. I can't produce evidence. As a lawyer, I can just give an opening statement. Did you agree with everything I said in my opening?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Could you tell the board a little bit about the ninth hole and the history of the ninth hole and what we were looking at on that course?
Sure. As Jim mentioned, Lanark has a great place in history in Philadelphia golf and the community. He also mentioned, the number of our members that are residents of Haverford Township. I think over half of our members are residents of Haverford Township. So it's got a great place in the community, and the golf course is very important to our members and very important to the success of our club. We've hosted great events throughout the years, national events going back to the 1940s and the 1950s, many regional and local events since then. We had the Pennsylvania State Amateur Championship last year. We have the Pennsylvania State Open Championship coming up next year. So the integrity of our golf course is really very important to the success of our club. And the ninth hole plays an important part of that. It's been, the layout of our golf course has been the same since that championship took place in 1958. We've made many minor changes throughout the years and moved bunkers around and moved tees slightly and lengthened the golf course in spots. But the true layout from 1 through 18 stays the same today as it did in 1958 when Dow Finsterwald won. So the ninth hole.
Let me just interrupt you
yeah,
for
sure.
1 second. Now, you heard me say that, read those quotes from Mr. Finnegan and from Mr. Kay concerning keeping the golf course the same as it was, the classic that it is. Why is that important?
I think one of the great things about a country club is especially a historic country club that's been around since 1901, is playing the golf course the same way as it was played for many years. And I think when you have a place that hosted major championships like we do, getting to play the golf course today in a very similar fashion than people did years ago is part of the draw of being a member at the club, part of the draw of playing golf there.
Okay. Now, that PGA championship we saw was in 1958. I
Yes.
believe you've had other events like the Patterson Cup and
We just hosted that this year, yes.
the Inquirer had a series there for a long time.
In the 1940s, Byron Nelson.
Do you still get many tournaments at the club?
We do, and we balance daily membership play with also having championship golf, and we still host many local Golf Association of Philadelphia events for men and women, and up to state level events like the Pennsylvania State Amateur and the Pennsylvania Open that we have coming up next year.
And what's the Pennsylvania Open?
It's basically the championship of Pennsylvania, golf championship, for amateurs and professionals.
And are there requirements you have to meet in order, with your course, in order to host tournaments like that?
Nothing specific, but certainly a championship level golf course is needed by the Pennsylvania State Golf Association. If you look at the clubs that have hosted it throughout the years, I mean, Marion Golf Club and Lanark are two of them in Haverford Township that have, but there's nothing specific, but having a championship level golf course is a requirement.
You started telling us about the ninth hole, and I cut you off, but I'm sorry to do that, but just I had a thought came to my mind, so I thought I would.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I was finishing up. The ninth hole is a major part of our golf course, always has. It's we're a par 71 golf course that has two par 5s on the front nine. So our front nine is par 36, and the ninth hole being a par 5, and has always played a major part in our events, and has always been a great hole and very similar to it is today.
Okay. Tell us some of the specific niceties of the ninth hole as it sits now.
Well, it's right along our property line. It goes out to our entrance. It's always been a tough driving hole because it borders the ninth hole. I mean, because it borders the property. And it's a bit of a risk-reward hole. So for good players, if you hit a good drive, you have a chance to go for the green in two. It's well protected by bunkers, always has been. So there's always a lot of drama there between whether birdies are made or higher scores are made to lose a lead, or to whether it's your local match you're playing with your fellow members. There's always a lot that happens on that hole.
Okay. And you heard me talk a little bit about there was a fire back in 1917 at the club, right? And
Yes.
the club was rebuilt, right? And since that time, I mean, there's been a lot of things that have gone on in the club. Has there not been a lot of things?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. It's it's from that point on over 100 years. I mean, we've had many events at the club, and it's been a storied part of the community since that time.
Okay. And we talked a little bit about the membership. How many members do you have?
We have over 750 memberships. About 450 of those are golf members, and a little less than 300 of them are social memberships.
Okay. And of that that membership, what percentage are Haverford residents?
Yeah, I think we haven't done this in a couple of years, but the last time we did it, it was just over half.
Okay. And there was some improvements made recently to the club, correct?
To the club or to the golf course
Golf course.
specifically? Yes,
Golf.
to the golf course, yes.
Yes. And some of that involved the ninth hole, correct?
Correct.
And can you tell me what those improvements were?
Sure. We widened the fairway. We moved the tee slightly. So the tee was lowered by about 10 feet or so, and it was moved over to the right by 10 feet.
Okay. Do we have a slide on there that shows the progression of the ninth hole?
We do. Let me see if I can.
Okay. Now you helped prepare this slide, correct?
I did.
Okay. And can you tell me what it represents?
It represents the ninth hole in 2004, 2017, and 2022.
Okay.
It also has obviously some other.
And can you point out what the significance is relative to this hearing?
Really, the amount of trees that the location of the tee box and the amount of trees that that are there. So
Let's talk about the trees first. What's different?
Starting in 2004, you can see the amount of trees that were in between the 9th and the 10th hole, and then less trees in 2017.
And why was that?
So we've removed trees throughout the whole golf course, but specifically on that hole, it is in relation to balls going into our neighbors' yards and trying to open up the left side of play from the tee box on the 9th hole to give golfers more room to let the ball fly through the air on the left side of the hole and not feel so restricted. As you can see in 2004, there's so many trees on the left hole, it's hard to start the ball far enough left.
For those of us who are not golfers here, what's the significance of getting rid of some of the trees with
Yeah,
respect
well,
to
the majority of golfers slice the golf ball, so they start the ball a lot further left than it ends up. And when you have sort of a wall of trees down the left side, that makes it very difficult to start the ball as far left as you might want, and it makes the ball more likely to go further right.
Okay. And still some balls will go out.
Of course.
Correct. And do we have a process in place where we talk to our neighbors if the balls go out of bounds?
Yeah, we have many neighbors throughout the years that have called us, and as you mentioned in your opening, I think our goal has always been to be good neighbors, and we've spent, a fair amount of money over the years fixing damage for, broken windows. We've replaced some siding for neighbors. We've windshields, sunroofs, and we've, whether we've paid for that or done it ourselves, we've always tried to be good neighbors in that regard.
Okay. Let's talk about the tee box number 9 and the changes to that.
Sure.
And the reasons, just basically the same questions I just asked you with respect to the trees.
Yeah, so it was lowered and moved to the right, and again, that was in reaction to trying to help alleviate some of the problem of balls going into neighbors' yards. So as you can, in the same way I explained needing to start the ball left and aim left, it actually works maybe a little bit different than you would think when you're hitting a golf ball. So the further right you are, the more you're able to aim left. So if you imagine a tee shot that slices to the right, if you're all the way up against the wall, you can't ever start that ball as far left as you want to, but if you move to the right, your aiming point can get a lot further to the left. So that was an attempt to lower it. Obviously, makes you have to hit a higher shot in order to hit it over the fence that's there today, and the tree line. And it allows you to start the ball further left and to aim further left. So that was an attempt to do that.
Mr. Wilkinson, can you, I can't see what you're referring to. Can you point to
Sure.
the differences, please?
So it is a little difficult to tell there, but if you see the old, if you look at 2017 compared to 2022, and I don't know that, let me see if I have the pointer will show up there. Okay, good. So this would have been the 9th tee box in 2017 before our most recent work done to those holes. And this right here is the new tee box. So I believe these are pretty similar in terms of where that line is right there. And you can see that the new tee box is further to the right than where the old tee box was. But if you can imagine, this tree kind of staring you in the face and you're teeing off here, your starting point is going to be a lot more here, slicing over to here on average. And everybody hits the ball differently, so this is just an average. But when you are here, it allows you to start the ball. You have more clearance to get that ball to start further left. And a lot of these, again, you can see the amount of trees that have been taken out to make it easier to do that. So we have made an attempt to make it easier for balls to stay on our property than to go into the neighbors' yards.
And you heard me talk a little bit about the lawsuit that was pending in Delaware County Courts. And you were with me for the entire day that we spent with Judge Dozer, correct?
I was.
And in the booklet, there's the order that Judge Dozer entered, and that's an order that the judge came up with after talking to all the lawyers. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And you'll agree with me that in that order, the judge directs us to consider a 90-foot high net, correct? And with
filling in with trees that are with 8 foot above the bowl, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And he says to do it in the 500 to 600 block of Country Club Lane, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and did you take that proposal, after we spent the day with the judge, did you take that proposal to the board?
I did.
Okay, and just to go back for 1 second, in the complaint that was filed in the lawsuit, did that also ask for a net 100 feet in height?
Correct.
Okay. So did you take the judge's order back to the board, the executive board at Leonard?
I did, the entire board at Lanark, yes.
Okay, and were they in favor of pursuing the idea of it?
Yes, they were, as a solution, they were willing to erect the net if that was the judge's order to solve the problem that was presented in the lawsuit.
Okay. I want to show you.
Is this the type of net that we're talking about? And I'm referring to Exhibit D.
Similar net to that, yes, it would have large steel poles. I can't tell from that picture whether those are steel or wood, but it would have 90-foot steel poles with netting in between.
Okay, and that's just a picture of the net that we found online, correct?
Correct.
Are you sure? What exhibit number? Just double check. Is it H?
And for the record, the order is Exhibit F in the packet.
What did I pull the wrong one? Yeah, it's Exhibit H, I'm sorry. Sorry, yeah. Exhibit H. And that's just an example of one of the nets that we got online, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then the next picture, Exhibit I, what is that, do you know? Is that another picture of a net that we got online?
That is.
And we don't mean to represent to the board that that's exactly what the net would look like, correct?
No.
Okay. Did you pursue a fence company to put up the nets?
We did.
Okay, and what was the name of that company?
Cross Country Cowboy.
Okay, and I want to show you what's marked as Exhibit J. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
That is the schematic that Cross Country Cowboy sent to us, showing us how tall the net would be, how far the guideposts would be away from each other, and where the guy wires would be on the end.
Okay. And did we have a schematic produced, again, not to scale, but just to show what the cross-country cowboy nets would look like?
Yes, and again, it's not to scale, but it would be what we think the representation of what the net would look like from the vantage point of our golf course.
And that's what we show at Exhibit K, correct?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry, yes.
And then Exhibit L, can you tell me what that is?
That is a picture of, again, not to scale, but what we think the net would look like from the Country Club Lane side.
Okay. And you prepared them? Or you're-
Yes, our staff at Lanark
Yep.
did, yes.
Okay. And you're willing to put this up to be a good neighbor, correct?
Correct, we are willing to.
And to follow the board's instruction, right?
Yes,
Okay, and you knew we had to come here for a variance tonight, right?
correct.
Okay, so this variance is going to be some, 55 feet higher, right, from 35 to 90. Do you think that is the minimum height that would be required to?
I don't know that. I couldn't tell you that. From my professional opinion, it would stop a majority of balls from going out. Probably not all of them, but
Where'd the 90-foot number come from?
from the judge.
Okay, all right. Do you think that this 90-foot, that would affect the public welfare in any way?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you think the net and the poles and everything would be secured by engineers, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
it would be sealed,
Correct.
and we would get all the permits we need to get in connection with putting that net up?
Absolutely.
That's all I have, thanks.
Thank you.
Do you have questions, Mike?
I have some questions if I may.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Other minds?
Good evening. We met
Good evening.
previously, right?
Yes, we have.
On that day, July 26th, before Judge Dozer.
Correct.
Mike, can you step a little closer to the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. And what brought us into court at that time was my client's request that the court entertain a hearing for a preliminary injunction. And at that time, we subpoenaed Kelly Kirk to appear in court with us and to bring whatever applications the country club had made to Haverford Township to that date with regards to the changes they were making in 2022. You recall that?
I do as part of the lawsuit.
Okay. So, and Ms. Kirk came in with all the documents that had been filed by the country club prior to that hearing date, and there was no application to the township under its saldo ordinance. Isn't that correct?
Objection. I don't know what the relevance of this is.
I'll tell you in a second.
Well, hold on. I didn't quite understand what the end of your question was with regards to the what ordinance?
This is the first public hearing that has happened with regards to all this changes at this country club, only because the country club did not make an application to the supervisors under the your saldo ordinance. This is land development.
They've been here before. I don't recall the specific purpose of the hearings that they've had. It might be related to the clubhouse or something, but
I just want to establish in this record
Okay.
that there was
Jim?
no application for saldo.
We're here at a very specific request, and that has, has been directed by the judge. You've seen the order. We're here to try and get a variance.
I can call Miss what's her name as Kelly Kirk
If it's
as a
relevant,
witness.
you can, but you can't just call her just if it's not relevant. And my objection is this has no relevance to the matter. What relevance does this have to the matter?
so, Mike, the sole purpose of this hearing is the net, whether we approve a net that they applied for or not. So how does that question relate to this net and this hearing?
I'll move on then if that's the, just note my exception on the record.
Of course.
Do you recall, sir, and let me just state at this time, we are not in opposition to this application. We are in agreement with this application, but we're here this evening because obviously from the response by the community, they're going to be insisting on certain conditions should this board approve their application. So we're only here to center on those conditions which would be acceptable to the board, to the applicant, and to my clients. That's what we're here for, okay? But in regard to, do you recall a YouTube transmission on June 10th, 2020?
I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to.
I'll give you.
Sure.
There's a YouTube transmission between yourself, Brian Burns, and could you identify him for the record?
Brendan Byrne is our my co-COO and the superintendent of the golf course.
And Brian Schneider?
Is the most recent golf course architect that we hired to make
Okay.
to do work on the golf course.
Like, do you intend to submit that as an exhibit, or you're just going to ask questions about it? Just
I'm
for purposes
gonna-
of copies for the board, that's all.
I'm going to make it an exhibit after he
Okay.
goes through it. So, you recall this event?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure exactly. We've had many times where the three of us were together, so I'm looking at it quickly here to see if I remember exactly what this is, but
Well, let me help you, sir, then. Do you
Sure.
see that the first paragraph of Mr. Burns says, and we lowered number 9 so that we could reduce the balls going out of bounds and pounding the neighbors' houses. You see that?
I see it here, yes.
Okay.
Again, I don't understand the relevance of this. So we're meeting in 2020, and we're here to try and correct the problem that he's complaining about.
So,
What's
Mike,
the
where
relevance?
are you going with this? Because,
I'll just, sorry, just give me 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'll let you.
Go ahead.
So,
I don't mean to be a pain in the neck, but what I am worried about is there's separate litigation that's going on. We're here tonight for a very, very specific reason on getting this variance, as directed to do so by the court. I don't want to go through and have to be arguing about what's, what's part of the other lawsuit, what's part of this lawsuit, what's a fishing expedition for the other lawsuit. It's a simple question we're here for tonight is, will that 90-foot net help, and will you give us permission to put it up? That's really.
Sorry.
that,
we had this complete historic presentation. And again, I'll remind the board that statements by counsel are not evidence. So when you said about the championship character and representation of the club, you did take one hole, right? The 14th hole, which was a par 5, and you cut it back to a par 4.
I've never done that anywhere close to my time at Lanark. It's been a par 5 as far as I can remember.
So how did Lanark Country, you explain to me, how did Lanark Country Club go from a 72 par to a 71 par? Somebody, you had to cut a horse.
Yeah, the 14th hole might have been changed from a par 5 to a par 4. I think you're correct.
That's what
I
I
don't.
just wanted to say on the
Sure,
record.
I don't know what year that happened.
Okay,
But it wasn't done under
Well
your-
before I would have worked there.
all right. So what would prevent, if the par, if this special ninth
Yeah.
hole was cut from a par 5 to a par 4, nobody would be here this evening. There would be no need for this, isn't that correct?
Objection, relevancy. I mean, we're
It is
here-
irrelevant.
We're here
Please
asking
move
for
on.
relief and
hey, we're talking about a proposed safety netting or netting, whatever we want to call it, a fence, and nothing else.
All right. Do you know what's significant regarding your application and this historical presentation to the board to the date of December the 12th, 1977?
I don't offhand.
That's when the township of Haverford created its institutional district and put the golf club into that institutional district. So that from that day forward, the golf club was no longer a pre-existing non-conforming use. Do you understand that?
object to that.
I don't understand it.
I don't understand. All right. Let the judge figure that out.
Jesse? You have a question?
Just to clarify, the render, let's see, there was exhibits, I believe, H and I. These, or, no, I and J, I'm sorry. These are, could we categorize these as renderings that were made?
I'm sorry.
Renderings? Are these
Is that
like
for me? Yeah,
artistic
yes, I-
renderings of what the proposed
Yes,
net would
it's
look like?
it's our best attempt to portray what we
Before you
believe
answer,
it will look like. It's a
You
rendering.
should look at the exhibit book, because I think Jay
Oh, I'm
is the
sorry. I'm sorry.
cross-country cowboy. Not
Right, it was
you, Jesse.
K,
Jesse, not you.
no, I said it wrong, I misspoke.
I know, but Mr. Wilkerson,
Sure,
should look at the book before you.
understand. Thank you. Is-
So you're talking about H and I, Jesse.
I misspoke, I meant K and L.
Yes, Exhibit K and Exhibit L would be renderings that we produced, which are not to scale, and would be our best attempt to portray what we feel that it would look like when completed.
Okay, and they are based on the elevation schematic, which was Exhibit J, showing, what the height and the spacing of the poles, and
Correct.
it also seems to show like the thickness of the poles. And generally, what you guys think this would look like from the golf course, and then also from Country Club Lane.
Correct.
And then the kind of netting, do you know what the makeup of the netting is?
I think it's nylon netting that is, we have a driving range fence that's similar to this. I'm not a fence expert, so I'm not going to be able to give you very specifics about the makeup. I do believe in there are, actually, it's not on this, but yeah, they're pretty tightly woven netting that is nylon and is, going to hold up pretty well for balls are not going to be able to pass through. It's very similar to what you'd see I don't know if you've seen Top Golf recently, that just went up in King of Prussia and some of the other locations. Very similar to what you'd see at the netting at that place.
Is there any concern over impact on wildlife, like birds or anything else?
Not from, I wouldn't be an expert in that regard and know whether it would impact.
Is that something that you guys would be able to consult with the appropriate parties who would be be versed in that to make sure that it is not harmful?
We would certainly be
wildlife?
willing to do that.
I don't have any other questions.
Jessica?
You said you have a driving range fence on the golf course right now.
We do.
How tall is that fence?
That is 60 feet.
So you testified previously that the 90-foot tall fence number came from the judge. Have you conducted any studies about the minimum height fence you would actually need to stop the golf balls?
We have not done that.
Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely would be willing to.
Okay. I'd like to see that study just to make sure that the height is either not too high or not too low conversely, so you're in agreement.
Jim, is that something you guys could? Ed?
On Exhibit K, I'm looking at that drawing, and I don't know where the artist rendering begins and where the true facts are. Currently, there's no trees in that area other than these arborvitae?
Well, those in order to put the fence where it would go, there are many trees that would have to come out. And so that would, again, this was a general attempt to give a general sense of what it will look like. It was not meant to be a very detailed, specific look with every tree in the right place, but there would be a lot of trees that have come out, and the judge's order is that the amount of trees that need to come out need to be replaced with something else.
So you don't plan to put in normal, other types of trees that were there pre-existing?
I don't think we are at that point yet where we have that specifically planned, but the trees that are there right now, I don't think we would replant, as they are pine trees that create a lot of debris, and I don't think we would plant those same trees.
What about the height of the pine trees as opposed to the maximum height of these type of trees that you show pictured here?
I don't have specific information as to the maximum height of the pine trees now compared to what I'm showing would grow to.
Is there an existing fence currently between the properties on Country Club?
Yes, it's just a 5-foot cyclone fence or 4-foot. That's been there for a long time.
And it's not the whole length of Country Club, so it's basically just from the drive to, I don't know, I'm looking at another exhibit you show, and you said it's like 300 feet long?
So the judge's 300 feet was what we estimated that to be based on the judge's order of the addresses that he put forward.
You see on the back page of the judge's order, there's a hand-drawn sketch that the judge actually attached to the order.
Yeah,
Did you mean 300 yards?
300 yards, yes, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, no, 300 feet, 300 feet. 300 feet's correct.
So
I apologize.
At the bottom of that schematic where it says 200 yard, 250 yard, very bottom, it seems like they estimate that most people that are going to hit the ball out of bounds to the right drive the ball between 2 and 250. And is that a fair assumption of where that number might have come from?
I have it outlined.
I believe so. I think from my recollection of the judge's discussion that day is he wanted to try to solve the problem, perceived problem for all neighbors, and made that decision based on where he felt in discussions with us, where he felt balls could start going out of bounds and where they could ultimately end up on the
Okay.
farthest side.
Sorry, for my clarification here, the lots that are listed there are house numbers. Are these all people that are involved in the settlement agreement?
No, sir, they're not. There's two people that are involved in the settlement agreement. The other properties are just adjacent properties.
So there's only two people that have went to court and tried to get this fence, and the other neighbors have not had it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They've had notice of the hearing, but tonight, but they're not part of the lawsuit. There's some neighbors that don't want fences, some neighbors that do want fences.
Okay. Thank you.
Just clarification, I don't know what settlement agreement you're referring to. The judge, we were there for a preliminary injunction, and the judge entered that order.
I think he's referring to the order, not a settlement agreement, right, Ed?
I agree with what Mr. Ignazio said, yeah. If he said settlement agreement, it was an order, that's right.
Understood.
Thank you.
But it was an order that they apply to the zoning board for this netting, fence, whatever you want to call it. Okay. I have no questions for you. Jim, do you have any?
No, I have no more.
Redirect.
Thank you. What I would ask is that the board admit my exhibits, which are A through L. And then if I could, we had a little bit of I apologize, I meant to do this earlier tonight. We had a little bit of mess up with getting the exhibits for the projector. It was my fault, not Kelly's fault. But there's that one exhibit with the three versions of
Videos.
Of the course. I'd like to mark that as Exhibit M, and if with your permission, I'll get a paper copy of that and send it to you as well.
Terrific.
Okay? Thank you.
Please make sure Mr. Dignazio gets a
Yeah.
copy as well.
If there's no objection,
And I'm sorry.
the exhibits are admitted.
The video wasn't part, correct? That's not, it's just the picture of the three.
Yeah, I think I'd like to make the video too. I'll get you a.
All right, because that's the only thing, obviously, it was a YouTube, so we have, make sure for purposes of the record that we at least have a thumb drive or
I
something.
will get you a thumb drive of that, yep, as well. So that would be N.
To make it crystal clear, unless there's any objection, those exhibits A through N, as in Nancy, are admitted. Do you have any other witnesses, Jim?
No, I do have Mr. Giangiulio here, if you have any questions as a member of the executive board, but I think his testimony is repetitive.
Mike, do you have any witnesses that you would like to call?
Yes, I call Mr. Robert Dignazio.
No? Well.
Thanks.
Please raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Robert Andrew Dignazio, 606 Country Club Lane, Haverford Town.
Now, Bob, as I previously stated, you're not in opposition to this application by the country club.
No, I'm not.
However, there's certain conditions you would like the board to consider with regards to any favorable action that they may take.
Yes, there are.
And what are they?
There are three. First, that the net be placed 30 feet from our property line in accordance with the 30-foot planing strip buffer, which is required by the zoning code. That buffer, according to the zoning code, must give immediate visual screening and maximum protection to our properties. And for institutional districts, the buffer width, which is required for the full width, according to the zoning code, is 30 feet for institutional districts that border residential districts, which obviously we're a residential district.
What's the distance of the trees which are effectively the buffer at the present time?
It's,
the property?
I don't know the exact, but according to Google Maps measurements, they fall short of 30 feet. And I can tell you by the property damage to my neighbors' houses as well as my house, they do not provide maximum protection as required by
Well, that's
township
why they're
zoning
here
code.
for the netting, presumably.
Correct.
So would moving it 30 feet put it in the middle of the fairway?
No, it would not be on the fairway. It would be adjacent to the fairway. It would be on the other side of the tree line, which is the most important part of the 30-foot buffer, so that the buffer gives immediate visual screening to this 90-foot net.
Go ahead, Mike, sorry.
The other conditions are that the netting, not the net, but the netting start 20 to 25 feet above the ground, so that, as I think Mr. Poynton alluded to, animals don't get stuck in the netting. If it were to go all the way to the ground, animals may get stuck in the netting. We'd like it starting 20 to 25 feet above the ground, so that when we walk out of our backyards, we don't see netting, we see trees and then what's behind the trees. If it were about 25 feet, if a ball driven were to go underneath the net, it would fall well short of the current 4 or 5 foot fence that's currently on the property line. So, you know, we don't want it to start so high that balls coming underneath the net still hit our properties. But if it's 20 feet, the balls will fall short of our properties. But again, animals aren't getting caught in the net, and the visual effect to our properties is minimal. And I would think golfers on the fairway as well, if it starts 20 feet above their heads, they don't see it as well. And I'd imagine be a less cost to the club. And the third condition would be that the poles be painted green or brown for the first 40 feet, so that it blends in with the tree line, and the color above the tree line is gray or blue or green, depending on, basically a color that blends in with the tree line, so that, again, the visual effect to our properties is minimal. So the 30-foot buffer as required by the zoning code, starting the net 20 to 25 feet above the ground, and the color of the poles being blended into the tree line. Again, to minimize the effect, the visual effect from our properties.
I have nothing further.
Jim?
No questions, thank you.
Jesse?
No question.
Jessica?
I just had one question.
Robert?
What year did you move to 606 Country Club Lane?
I moved in the Sunday and Monday of Memorial Day weekend, 2019. The ninth hole was then renovated. I think it started in the fall of 2019 and opened May 1st of 2020.
From your memory, from Memorial Day to when the ninth hole closed, did you have any golf balls coming into your yard at that time?
I did not have any, I don't remember balls coming into my yard and I made no complaints to the club or the township at that time. It wasn't until after the club, the renovated hole opened in May 2020. My, at the time, 6-month-old child the balls fell 5 feet from him on our patio. These balls are coming in at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. I'm not a golf expert, but, they're fairly fast moving. And then a ball broke a screen window that same summer, and that's when I first reached out to Mr. Wilkinson. So that was all like summer to fall of 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Ed?
No question.
Thanks.
Jim?
No, thank you.
Mike, any redirect? No?
sir.
Thank you. And any other witnesses?
No, from my,
All right. With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify. Please come forward. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Thomas Hartman, 617 Furlong Avenue.
What would you like to tell us, Robert, or Thomas, sorry?
There is a Villanova dropout named Bartkowski who is spending his considerable fortune trying to build huge billboards up and down Westchester Pike. He would love to see a precedent in a 60 or 90-foot net. As concerned residents, I think Lanark Country Club should find other ways to catch stray balls.
Okay. Any questions for Thomas? No? Thank you. Anyone else that received certified mail? Yes, ma'am. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Claire Iannone, Iannone. I'm at 527 Furlong Avenue.
What would you like to tell us,
Well,
Claire?
I want to ask a question, if I may, and then I'm just going to tell you something. For those of us who don't understand all the court proceedings, like the neighbors, is this a definite thing that this fence has to be there? And now we're just talking about the height? Or is it still a possibility that there's no fence?
Ernie?
The court order just indicates that they have to come to this board following, as I read it, and counsel, please correct me if I'm wrong, following Lanark's approval of developing or installing this fence. They have to come to this board to obtain any zoning relief that's necessary for the installation of the fence. This board does not have to grant the request for the variance to allow the fence to be erected. Matter of fact, I believe the court order specifically indicates if approved by Lanark Country Club, and I'll give you the time frame, in 45 days of this order, and Lanark Country Club within 15 days thereafter shall submit plans and applications to the township and or the zoning hearing board, which they've done, reason why we're here. But it does say, if not approved by the township and or the zoning hearing board, this court shall relist the matter. So this court order does not direct this board to do anything. The applicants are here as a result of this order, asking for relief to install the fence.
For relief to install the fence at all?
Correct.
Not about the height? Okay.
Was that a fair recitation, counsel?
I agree with that recitation. Yeah.
Michael, was that a fair recitation?
If it's not approved, then we're back before Judge, whoever picks this up, for our preliminary injunction hearing that we wish we had in place on July 26th.
Okay. The other thing, the first condition about that 30-foot buffer, I heard that it's more for industrial. It's not about being in a residential area. Is that applicable when you already have an existing property? Like,
Well, I'd have to defer to the zoning officer on the size there in terms of the buffer, but
I think I can help the board.
No.
Section 2 of
Thanks. Thank you for your help, but we don't need your help. And I can't, we're not going to answer those type of questions.
oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay. So I'm an engineer, and I'm concerned this is actually going to cause more problems than it solves. You're digging these poles. Okay, you have to dig, you have to auger, you have to get the height down to the ground to put these poles. Even though they're only holding a net, which isn't structurally, heavy, it's a big span. You're digging old properties with old water lines, and there's been a lot of water line issues in Havertown recently. I don't think anyone on Country Club wants any water pipe issues, and that's what I would almost guarantee is going to happen when you auger down the height you're going to need for a 100-foot pole, which would provide the protection for a 90-foot fence. That's a concern. I absolutely would understand if the fence is needed or if it's installed, your conditions, keeping 25-foot height, and, birds. And I guess what I'm struggling with, and I guarantee a lot of the neighbors are struggling with, is we all moved close to a golf course. We all understand the nature of balls being whacked. And I don't think anyone wants to look at this. I don't think the country club should have to pay for this. I don't think the neighbors should look at it. I mean, this just seems quite ridiculous in my mind. Been there since 1901, and man, we got to reinvent the wheel here. So thank you for hearing me.
Any questions for Claire? Jesse?
No questions.
Jessica? Jim, I'll go to you. If you or Mike have a question for anyone that wants to testify, just let me know. So anyone else that and we still have another case tonight, so we'll get it as you guys come up to testify where you stand with this thing. There's no need to clap or otherwise. Yeah, come on. Yeah.
Please let last check speak after me, though. Good evening, zoning board. Mr. Poynton.
Wait. Please raise your right hand.
Yeah,
Swear to tell
Mr.
the
Poynton,
truth.
nice to meet you in person. Finally, Todd Hall.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Slow down. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Todd D. Haven Hall, 535 Country Club Lane, Haverford Township, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, United States of America.
What would you like to tell us, Todd?
Sure. I know we have a lot going on, so I'll be brief. The issue is before the board here due to a nuisance complaint. A net will create a visual nuisance both to humans and to wildlife, even with some of the modifications discussed. A nuisance shouldn't be solved by creating another nuisance. It would defeat the purpose. The suit that led to tonight's need for a variance request had no report of actual bodily injury from the plaintiff. The net would be up 24 hours a day. Mr. Poynton, are you taking notes and listening to me? Great, thank you. It would be up 24 hours a day.
Hold on.
Yes.
We are absolutely not going to do that. This board always...
It's for public comment. I want to make sure those that are on the board are listening to
but
me.
you're not going to come up and address a board member like that. We have respect for you. We have respect for everyone's
Well, I should have
opinions.
said the board member farthest left. My apologies. Anyways, to conclude, and that would be up 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Golfers are at the golf course property launching golf balls with a much less frequency than that, with most balls staying on the land or property. So the board should not approve this variance. Thank you.
Presumably no questions. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your full name and address, please?
Dan Blashak, 538 Country Club Lane. Dan Blashak, B-L-A-S-C-H-A-K, 538 Country Club Lane, right there, somewhere.
And what would you like to tell us, Dan?
I have a statement.
Okay.
In the spring of 1976, my wife, right over there, saw an ad in the Philadelphia Inquirer that read, 4-bedroom twin overlooking golf course. That ad brought our growing family to Country Club Lane and Havertown. We would proudly raise our 3 daughters in this home, originally built in 1928. Our home needed much work done, but the view of the golf course was the reason we bought. It was the reason why many of our neighbors bought. We knew our responsibility in moving to a home adjacent to a golf course. We also knew the risks involved. Our home is maybe 175 yards up from the 9th tee. There would be golf balls coming into our backyard. windows, windshields could be broken, and kids could be injured. And we had 3 kids. We have 3 kids. Knowing this, my wife and I made sure that our 3 girls knew what they had to know while playing on their swing set out back. The advice was simple. Remember, girls, when you hear somebody over on the golf course yelling, 4 right, make sure you duck. Be careful out there. Our girls survived nicely, thank you, and our oldest daughter, Kara, lives on Greenview Lane, still enjoying her view of Lanark. The open space that the course gave us was worth dealing with the cons of living there. Lanark Country Club, and I hope I don't get any of this history wrong. I am a history teacher. My wife is a history teacher. Lanark Country Club has been in our township since 1925. It was initially called the Pennsylvania Railroad Golf Club, and I have assumed that the club always had a good neighbor policy when the houses were starting to be built along Country Club Lane just before the Depression and right after. Today, when the winter snows come and all the kids in Havertown converge on Lanark for sledding, the club has never once accused the kids of trespassing. By the way, our middle daughter broke her foot when she made a wrong turn into a Lanark tree. We never once considered a lawsuit against you fellas. When our windows were broken, the club always took care of the cost. When we started to worry about an ash tree located on their property and feared it could collapse onto our garage, which we share with a neighbor, the club had the tree analyzed, agreed with our assessment, and took that tree down. That's what I call a good neighbor policy. So why are we here tonight? And if there's any mistakes that I make in this, please let me know. 2 of our neighbors have sued Lanark demanding a 90-foot fence running along our property line. Now I understand that Lanark is also supporting this, which I do not get. These neighbors wanted, from what I've heard, they wanted it even higher than the 90-foot mark. I have one simple question for these litigants. Why would you buy a home on a street called Country Club Lane, right next to a golf course with golfers who might have a slice, and subject your children to the dangers of living adjacent to that golf course and not consider those risks? Now, what about this fence? I wish you had the picture of it up there, because that's an ugly fence. How will it impact our environment? Is the net going to be behind or in front of the tree line? Will the trees be taken down? What about the wide variety of birds that inhabit those trees that might be impacted? And we keep coming back to the overall beauty of Lanark Golf Club. An army of telephone poles holding up a screen, subjected to oftentimes ferocious winds, is going to blight both our neighborhood and Haverford Township significantly. We have traveled to courses, my wife and I, with nets up, and have learned that during storms with high winds, the netting can be and will be torn. We can attest to these high winds in the winter. Particularly, we have just a few days without the wind cutting across the course. My wife started to look into what the law said about this issue. What she found was really interesting. In a case called Sons versus Ramsey Golf and Country Club, a homeowner sued to stop the use of a certain tee due to problems with errant golf balls. The court noted 2 crucial facts. The homeowner must be held responsible for taking the discomforts, quote, of such proximity. In other words, the homeowners assumed risk with their home purchase. And 2, the golf course must be held to some degree of responsibility.
Please address your comments to the board.
In other words, if an errant golf ball shatters the windshield of our car while parked in a driveway at 538 Country Club Lane, Lanark would accept responsibility for damages. The example that I just gave you was not hypothetical. It happened this past summer on August 15th. My wife immediately called Brendan Byrne, one of the managers at the club. She explained the issue to him, and he told us to get an estimate, have the work done, and advised us to take the estimate over to the appropriate office at the club. 2 days after the windshield was repaired, we received a check for $542 from Lanark Country Club. That is just one of many examples of how Lanark has accepted both responsibility and also being a good neighbor. In addition to taking care of the cost of damages to our home, the club has altered the course layout, the way I understand it, to those who are living on Country Club Lane. A new bunker was built on the right side of the 9th fairway to try to convince the wayward golfer to stay in the middle of the fairway or perhaps push the ball to the left. I believe the position of the tee at the 9th was also reconfigured so as to diminish possible damage to our homes. Now here we are today with another fence crisis in Haverford Township. I recall the problems that resulted from that famous Havertown good neighbor fence thing, but in that case, cooler heads prevailed to help solve the crisis several years back. We can only hope that cooler heads prevail here. I'm only speaking for my wife and I on this issue, and we vehemently oppose the entire project. It will have a negative impact on our property values and will destroy open space in our community. Safety should remain with the buyer who purchased a home on a golf course knowing that golf balls are problematic. Lanark Country Club has in good faith provided safety to our homes by planting a natural fence along our border trees. As far as I know, the club has always compensated the owners of homes that have been damaged. We certainly have been. If the neighbors who have brought forth this suit prevail in their variance request, the army of telephone poles holding up a screen fence that I mentioned earlier will become our new neighbor. The litigants will have woven a web of ugliness across all of our homes, Lanark Country Club, and Haverford Township. The greenest and most beautiful spot in Havertown will have become tarnished. Please permit me to make one more leap back into the past. Incidentally, Joan and I, as I said earlier, are both history teachers. I think the year was 1957, but it's 1958. And Sam Snead, the great American golfer, was walking past what 19 years later would become our backyard. He had the lead in the PGA tournament as he strolled past our yard and maintained that lead as he finished the front nine. Then tragedy happened. Mr. Snead blew it on the back nine, finishing third behind Billy Casper and the winner, Dow Finsterwald. What we are asking this board is this. Please don't do what Sam Snead did. Do not approve this ugly fence, for it's going to blight our street, the club next door, and a huge piece of still beautiful, still green Haverford Township. Thank you.
Questions? Jim, Mike, Jessica? Oh, go ahead.
We are not the applicant here. We're not asking for the variance. We wanted our preliminary injunction here.
Okay. Question? Jessica, Ed, Jesse? Okay. Anyone else certified mail? Come on. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Full name and address for the record, please.
Michael Solomon, 543 Country Club Lane, Havertown, Pennsylvania, 19083. Brief note on this, my wife and I bought our house on Country Club Lane in July of this year. I believe it was the same exact day that this court hearing occurred. We paid over $400,000 for it, which frankly is a lot for a townhouse. And part of what we were paying for is the fact that we have this beautiful view of a country club. I initially wanted to come up here and speak about the fact that within the variance code that there would be a detriment to public welfare. The fact that this is Country Club Lane. We have an expectation of our community reflects part of this golf course. But more than that is the fact that tonight you heard from two parties, one of whom stipulated that they wanted 25 feet of clearance. The judge made their decision without actually factually checking how much this plan would solve any problem for the community. You only have two people who signed on to the lawsuit. So the board has the ability to just say, not right now. Take a pause, take some time, do some research, send it back to the courts. Let them come up with a new alternate measure, possibly putting up more trees. We can see the tree coverage has been adapted over time to help protect the neighbors, help make sure that Lanark's being good neighbors to the street without creating this giant eyesore that I believe would probably be the tallest point in Havertown. Thank you.
Any questions? Jim, Mike, Jess, Ed, Jesse? Yes, ma'am. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth?
I
So help
do.
God? And your full name and address, please.
Elizabeth Hamilton, 617 Furlong Avenue.
And what would you like to tell us?
A few years ago, I was at a zoning hearing at which Haverford College was asking for a variance so that they could build a 6th-floor building on their campus. It would have been 60 to 90 feet tall. They were told that they could not. And the reason was that it is not in keeping with the character of the township. And also, I believe what I heard was that it would set a precedent that people would be wanting, put in a high-rise apartment building or something like that. They did not want to set a precedent at that time. And I hope that, that putting up such a net would not set a precedent for how tall things can be in our township. It really will be an eyesore. You'll be able to see it from Route 3, from Route 1. I don't back up on it. I thought it was going to be since I got the letter, that it was going to be something that I would be able to see. But I will be able to see it, and so will people coming out Route 3 will be able to see it from the city in Upper Darby. It really will be an eyesore, and it's a strange situation, since a judge has like Dozer has ordered that this should be done, but I think that there's got to be some way that things can be negotiated a little bit. I don't know who negotiates with whom, but does Judge Dozer could meet with our zoning board or something? It's what he asked for cannot be done. And it should not be done. This is Haverford Township, not Philadelphia.
I mean, any negotiations would be between the litigants who are in the audience. We're here because the judge issued this order compelling them to apply for whatever relief is necessary to put up the net or fence, whatever we want to call it. And that's why we're here. We're not a party to anything.
Oh, good. Well, supposing that you say, sorry, not in Haverford Township, then his order cannot be carried out, and that's just too bad. I mean, it would save a lot of beautiful trees.
I won't speculate as to what could happen, but I think Mike there already indicated he's anxious to go have a.
Judge entered the order in spite of giving us a preliminary injunction. This is the applicant, the country club, not my clients. And this idea that somehow something my clients or I did in litigation is causing this internecine war between neighbors. That wasn't our intention.
Oh, I'm sure.
T to be moved. We just asked for the T to be moved, that's all.
All right.
They didn't want the T moved because you had this great history now of how important the ninth hole is.
Okay. What I do not want is a back and forth between neighbors, because we don't want hostilities.
Of course.
Look, whether anyone agrees with them or not, they feel a genuine safety concern for their children. And I get it. Some people are saying, you buy a house on a golf course, this is what happens. They have their view, and we want to heir everyone's input. So thank you very much.
Okay. I just was saying that there is a precedent for no tall buildings or no tall anythings. Also,
Okay.
I thought that picture did not look so bad with the picture of the net, but the net was like not any taller than any of the trees, and there's no trees 100 feet high in this area. Some trees do grow that tall, but not around here. I wondered if that was, I don't know. It sure didn't look like it was 100 feet high to me.
Good. Thank you. Sir, come up. I'm just trying to reel it in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Full name and address, please.
My name is Tony Iannone. I'm Claire's husband. I live on 527 Furlong Avenue in Havertown, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
What I see is really nothing needs to be done. We don't need a net, and a lot of people agree with me on that. I moved here and started dating I met my wife on Match.com, and we started dating. I lived together for 5 years. I never had a problem with Leonard Country Club. We always had balls come into our house, and you know, every once in a while we thought it was a walnut or something that hit our windshield. We never reported it. We just, you know, smiled and said, "Oh well." And she has plenty of golf balls in her garage because of what's been going on, but we don't mind because it's a beautiful golf course. I don't want to see this guy over here. He's putting up with all this stuff.
Just address the board.
That's going on, okay, with the lawsuits and everything about ruining people's houses, and end up selling his golf course, and then homes will probably be being built because he's going to be sick and tired of owning that golf course. Homes will be built. People will want to go to new construction. They'll leave their old houses. And what happened when I lived in Belmar, I had to move out of there because it became Muslim. And everybody that was, you know, different races and stuff like that didn't get along with those people. So they all moved out. And now the whole place is a Muslim area. It's a Muslim church, and it destroyed the neighborhood. So I don't want to see the same thing happen to Havertown. I want it to be peace, and I don't want to see any net. I just want to see the way things are now and let it be that way. And that's it. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Anybody else? Let's go on this side. Hello. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Your full name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Kathy Crego. I live at 612 Country Club Lane. Kathy Crego, C-R-A-G-O. I live at 612 Country Club. Been there since 1991. Have had a lot of damage over the years. My house is probably one of the ones that has more damage than others. Do I want a net? No, I don't. Just thought it would be important to say that for the record. Do I like the damage? No. Is it frustrating? Yes. Has the country club replaced numerous windows, windshields, dents in my cars, you know, you name it, as everyone else said, yes. Have they ever repaired damage to my home? No. I have asked, and they tell me to submit homeowners claims. That's not an option. They told me if I filed that many claims, they would cancel me from my homeowner, so I just live with it. But that's not the point. I just really wanted to say for the record that I've lived there a long time. I do have a lot of damage, probably more than others. I don't think the net is the answer. I did meet with Chris and Brendan and a bunch of folks, kind of informal at the country club. Prior to COVID, I'm going to say it was probably February 2020. I remember it was the winter. I don't know exactly when that was. And we talked about the damage and the problems that we have. And they had mentioned that the trees that were there, the pine trees, weren't the right tree, you know, that it really wasn't blocking the balls, and that, you know, maybe the answer was, you know, that we have to replace these trees. And that's really what I would like to see, even if we could do other pines in front of the pines, or something that could maybe in time grow and kind of block, you know, some of the balls and the damage coming through. So the net really wouldn't, what they're proposing wouldn't come through my backyard. It would stop before. So it's not really going to affect me personally, but it will. Every time I come down my street, I'm going to see it, and my neighbors and all that. So just wanted to say for the record, I am against it, but I do think that there's something that we can do, and maybe it's planting the right pine trees. But that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions? No? Anyone else? Certified mail? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, sir.
Full name and address, please.
Kyle Giangilio, 533 Country Club Lane. Giangulio, Giangiulio. 533 Country Club.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Ma'am, sirs, neighbors. So this board has, I think, 5 standards, one of which states that the variance must represent the minimum that the variance will afford the relief. I don't believe these standards are met by the proposal. The height of the proposed net at 90 feet tall far exceeds the minimum height that will afford relief in this situation, I believe for the following reasons. The apex of a golf shot is defined as the highest point of a golf ball reaches. The apex of a golf shot is defined as the highest point a golf ball reaches during its flight. The average apex a male pro player will hit on such a shot is 95 feet. 75 feet for a professional female player. Your average golfer cannot reach these marks by any measure. Not to say that Lanark has poor golf members. The tee box on the 9th hole at Lanark is positioned below the raised fairway where the proposed net will be constructed. In other words, this is an uphill shot, like we spoke about earlier. My point being that striking a golf ball from a lowered position towards an elevated landing area, anywhere close to this height of a 90-foot net from a distance of the current tee box orientation is nearly an impossible feat, even if it was done on purpose. Let alone from the misfires, which are the overwhelming majority of errant golf shots here. I've yet to observe a golf shot clearing the roof lines of the homes on the side of the country club lane. I live across the street. Otherwise, we'd have balls coming over the houses as it currently stands, hitting my house, hitting the cars, because there's no net as it currently stands. So I just question the necessity of a 90-foot high net when surely a far less intrusive solution could be achieved and the same relief sought here. I just think we need a subject matter expert to weigh in on this one.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. Any questions for Kyle? All right. Anyone else that received certified mail? Yeah, sure.
Bob Dignazio, 606.
You were already sworn.
Yeah, I'm already sworn. I
Go
just
ahead.
want to make a few clarifications and then a few statements. The preliminary injunction that we requested in July was simply to restrict all tee shots from the 3 tees that you see in the bottom right of that screen, the 3 tees there, up to the forwardmost tee, which is actually located on the fairway. A golf expert that we had evaluate the tees came to the conclusion that if all tee shots were shot from the forwardmost tee on the fairway, that our properties and a lot more properties would be safe from errant balls. Again, we did not make the application. The club, in response to our request for preliminary injunction, which would cost $0 and would not affect anyone's view of the golf course or their homes, the club requested in lieu of that preliminary injunction request that they put up the net. So they've requested the net over simply moving the tee up to the fairway, moving it from a par 5 to a par 4. So I just want to clarify that for this body as well as the room. Also, one of my neighbors made the statement that bunkers were put in recently to protect our homes that ran kind of along the tree line to deter golfers from shooting towards our property. Those bunkers were actually removed in the 2019 renovation of the 9th hole, as well as a tree that would have deterred golfers from shooting towards our homes. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to Ordinance 1689. This ordinance makes institutional districts such as Lanark subject to Section 703 of the zoning code. Mr. Byrne made the statement that Section 703 does not apply because they're an institutional district, not a residential district. But 1689, Ordinance 1689, when it created institutional districts, specifically stated that institutional districts are subject to 703. Section 703 states, quote, after requiring specific fence or net heights for tennis courts, it states, Appropriate fences for any other type of recreational use may be required at the discretion of the zoning officer. The type, quality, and method of construction of any required fence shall be approved by the zoning officer with the intent that said fence shall act as a protection to adjacent properties against interference from stray balls. The height limitations as contained in Chapter 58, Building Construction, shall be waived for fences required under this section." End quote. Clearly, the intent of the zoning code is to provide protection to residents and prioritizes safety over height limits. In addition, the club already has, as was stated, a net that exceeds the height limitations on their driving range. By granting this variance, you would not only be upholding the spirit of the zoning regulations, but also safeguarding our residents. Allow me to provide some context as to why this golf net is imperative for the protection of our homes. I'm not a golf course expert or a golf architecture expert, but if you look up some golf safety guidelines or talk to a golf expert, safety guidelines recommend that fairway center lines, which you can see on the pictures, the center, the line that runs in the center of the fairway where golfers aim on their drives, be placed at a minimum between 150 and 200 feet from a bordering property, depending on what architect you read. Also, so that right-handed slices move away from neighboring properties. So if I'm teeing off, I've never played around a golf, but if I tee off, a right-handed slice goes to the right. As you can see here, right-handed slices go towards our property. The 9th fairway center line is just 90 feet, not 150 feet at a minimum, 150 to 200. It's 90 feet, 30 yards from our properties. And right-handed slices go towards our homes and families. Neighbors have complained for years, as you've heard. If the club's variance application is rejected, the property damage will be guaranteed to continue due to the inherent unsafe position of the 9th fairway in relation to our homes. I also have here a letter that a neighbor shared with me. It's from our state legislator. This memo is being sent to all those who reside on the even-numbered side of Country Club Lane. In recently going door to door on that street, a number of residents have advised me of the damage to their property caused by stray golf balls. While this is a township issue over which I, as a state representative, have no official jurisdiction, I've contacted our township commissioner requesting their assistance. It seems obvious to me that the country club has an absolute responsibility to ensure the safety of the residents who reside in the area as well as their property. I hope, and it goes on, and then he says, I hope that this matter can be satisfactorily resolved, as I also hope that you will feel free to contact me at any time concerning any matter of interest to you. All the very best. This is not a letter from Representative Vitale. It's a letter from Representative Friend, and it's not dated 2022 or 2023. It's dated 1990. So this issue has gone on for 3 decades. And by denying this variance, this body would just be kicking the can down the road with the safety of residents and the properties of residents. You've heard about the damage. Will certainly continue, as I stated, as I outlined. I'll close by saying that a vote to approve is a vote for the safety and well-being of our families, as well as the integrity of the neighborhood and the integrity of this township. We proposed a different solution. This is what the club has applied, and I think given the township zoning ordinance in regards to recreation, it must be approved. Thank you.
Questions? Jim?
Sure. Mr. DeGazio, this is you that's the plaintiff in this case, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm one of the two.
Robert DeGazio?
Yes.
Right, and you said just now to the board that you didn't want a 100-foot net, is that right? You didn't ask for a 100-foot net?
No, I said that the petition for preliminary injunction was to temporarily, which is why we're here, was to temporarily move the tee from those 3 tees in the bottom right of your screen up to the fairway.
Well, maybe
That's
I-
why we're here.
maybe I
We're in the
heard- maybe I-
preliminary injunction
Okay.
request.
Maybe I heard you wrong, but I thought you said that you didn't ask for it, that the club asked for it. I want to ask you if that's your signature there with that verification on the complaint?
Yes.
Can you tell me what this paragraph reads right here, on page 7 of the
I'll
complaint?
read A and B.
Okay, read it, please.
The defendant be prohibited and restrained from using the 19 fairway of its course until is erected netting at least 100 feet in height to protect the plaintiffs, their families, and property from errant balls. Letter B, in the alternative, the defendant shall move the tee box of the 9th hole north of the plaintiff's properties.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? Jessica, Ed? Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else that received certified mail? Anyone that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? Anyone else? No? Even if you want to come up and say you're for it, against it, and not make some fancy speech, you're welcome to do that. You don't, people often come up and say, I agree with this, or I'm just against it. You don't have to have such a well-prepared speech like some did. Yeah, sure, come up. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Rosemary Marley, M-A-R-L-E-Y. I'm at 604 Country Club Lane.
What was your last name again, Rosemary?
Marley, M-A-R-L-E-Y.
604?
Correct. I am the quote-unquote landing zone. I'm the landing zone of
So you're the landing zone?
the landing zone. Like Kathy, I experience, and I've been there since 1993. My husband has been there since 1979. We have experienced extensive damage over the course, and the course has been nothing but kind to us, up to and including, unlike Kathy, we did at the time have aluminum siding on our home, and they worked with us. They paid the deductible, we went through insurance, and we now have vinyl siding on the house, which does have quite a few cracks from golf balls. I have had golf balls come through windows, up to and including into my daughter's bed. That's not the point of this. The point is that we purchased the home with a view. I do not want the net. I also question the fact whether any other options given besides a net. And besides moving, I don't find moving the tee box up to the fairway, it's only going to cause the problem further up to homes. So were there any other options given besides a net? Were there any certified letters given to other neighboring streets? Because they also will look at the net. And I say that because Westwood Park, I've spoken to a few neighbors, and they were unaware of such net going up. The next question, if this goes through, is what is the maintenance on this net? Because it's my understanding that they're removing the trees, they're placing these steel beams into the ground, they put the nets up, trees are going in front of it at minimum 8 foot, they will grow. What happens when they intertwine with the net? Does the net rise with the tree? Who's responsible for that? Then the next question would be, how far down will the steel beams go into the ground? Because it will be very close to the garages that are there. So any damage that happens, who's responsible? And then, obviously, we have purchased a home with a view. And I certainly don't want to look out my back window with a net.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
Thank you.
questions for Rosemary? Anyone else? You?
Can I say something real quick?
Very briefly.
I'm just sorry about the comment I made earlier about the Muslim comment. I'm sorry about that. I take that back.
I'm happy to hear
I
you
just
say
don't
that.
want to see this beautiful golf course. He's going to probably end up selling that golf course because he's going to be sick of hearing all the complaints. And we don't mind what's going on with the golf balls and the damage and all that. We don't want a net. And I just don't want to see new homes built on that property. And then we lose the view of that place, and it's going to bring down the value of everybody else's house. And we're going to lose our religion, or there's not going to be a Catholic school anymore and all that. It'll become a big mess, and I don't want to see that happen.
Okay.
That's it.
Anyone else? Regular? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Full name and address, please.
Liam Francis Zaromsky, 60 Z-O-R-O-M as in Mary, S-K-I. 602 Country Club Lane, Haverford Town. I guess I have a question as to if this proposed idea of a net is supposed to extend along a certain range of homes on one hole. You also have holes that border other sides of the club and other areas where there are homes as well. Is it just because that nobody else has griped about balls coming into their yard on other sides of the course, other areas of the neighborhood such as Greenview, that a net is not being proposed for those areas as well? If you're worried about safety, you should worry about the safety of everybody, and that's something that is under that, you know. If you're gonna try to put up a net and make the fight, why not fight for everybody and try to keep everybody safe, you know? If you really want to put up a net around the whole golf course.
Liam,
That's what.
just so you sort of understand, attached to the judge's order, there's an overhead of the 9th hole, and somehow or another, someone arrived at a distance from the current tee box, 200 and 250 yards. I suppose that's the distance that, you know, most golfers drive the ball. And the proposed fence would start at about the 200-yard mark. And Jim, please correct me if I misstate this at all. And it would end at the 250-yard mark. Presumably, beyond 250 yards, you're out of the danger zone, and before 200 yards, you're not in the danger zone. I haven't heard, and maybe we have residents here who live outside of that area, but I mean, regardless, I haven't heard anyone say they're in favor of the net or the fence yet. So, but your other question about other areas of the golf course, I have no idea.
Nah, you know, just out of curiosity.
I'm not a member there.
No.
I don't know.
But, you know, I'm 22. I've lived there my entire life. I've never been hit. I've grown up with people on the street who are the same age, older than I am, and they've never been struck by a golf ball, you know.
So are you in favor or opposed?
Oh, no, I'm opposed.
Okay. Any questions? Jim, Mike, board? Okay. Anyone else? Whether you received any type of mail, going once, going twice? Jim, you want to close?
I don't think the hour's so late that we need to say much more than, you know, we're here asking for a variance pursuant to the court order, and we've made our case, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mike?
Very briefly, the issue got raised because of the changes that the club made in 2020. There was no problems. You got 2004, 2017, no problems. It's when they made the changes in this latest redesign and reconstruction of the course that all these issues came about. And they did all this.
No. He didn't interrupt anyone else who was speaking. Let's have the same courtesy. Go ahead.
As my son testified to, they bought the house in April. They relied upon the fact that with the changes, there must have been an application by the club to the board of supervisors for an application for a salary. The supervisors should have reviewed all the changes that were made, and gave all these people the right to come and participate in that review, which they had the statutory right to do. That didn't happen, and we didn't want the court, we didn't go to the court on July 26th for this order to be issued. We went there to have, with our expert present, a preliminary injunction hearing. So, sure, this can be changed very easily. Just have the short T, make it a par 4
Mike,
course,
I mean,
and it's over.
just,
Well, the people asked if there's other alternatives. Sure, there's an easy alternative.
but do you think that changes the character of the course in any way? I mean, if we go down that route, they're gonna want to explain how that changes the history and the character of the course.
Well, that's an argument that should have been made before the Board of Supervisors. They're the ones that have the right to make that decision. If they applied it saldo, we would have had all that out before then.
With that, anything else, any of the board? No? With that, we'll close the record on this case, and a decision will be rendered either this evening. In the event we're not able to do a decision this evening, we will do a decision at our next regularly scheduled hearing on, what's the date?
November 16th.
16th.
November 16th.
On November 16th. And that's the more likely date for a decision, November 16th.
Thank you very much.
We'll take 5 minutes off the record, Jeff. Comes on? Bingo. All right, we'll reconvene the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. Our next case is Z23-27, Jennifer Lukes and Jeffrey Persh, owners of 52 White Marsh Road, Ardmore, PA, DC folio number 2203, 0222500, who seek variances from section 182-204C4 to exceed the maximum 20% building coverage by 4.2%, 281 square feet. Code section 182-204C5B to encroach into the required 30-foot minimum secondary front yard setback by 5 feet. Help me out with this. Is it 5 feet 7 inches, or is it 5 to 7 feet?
Between 5 and 7 feet, because of the angle of the property line.
Okay. For the construction of a two-story, 20.8 foot by 10.1 foot addition, and by 9 feet to 11 feet for the construction of a front door portico. Property is on R2 and located in the third ward. Good evening.
Good evening.
I need to swear each of you. Ladies first, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Jennifer Lucas, 52 White Marsh Road, Ardmore, PA 19003.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record?
Is Jeffrey James Persh at 52 White Marsh Road, Ardmore, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And you have some exhibits that you want for the record, right?
Right. So we have one packet that's called additional information on the top. We would like to enter that as Exhibit A1. And then the second exhibit would be Exhibit A2, which is the plot plan, which is also shown up here.
Okay. So please tell us a little bit about what brings you back to this evening.
Yes, right. So we were here in April, and we were here to request a variance to put up an addition next to our garage to expand the footprint of our garage. And so, so basically we're back because we were told as part of this process that we would need to get a stormwater management plan because we're putting a certain amount of impervious down as part of this project. And in the course of getting the stormwater management plan done, we had a boundary and topographical survey of the property. And that boundary and topographical survey had setback lines that were shifted, that were different from the ones that we used in our plot plan in April. And so the primary reason, and also the the existing building coverage was slightly different. And so we are here mainly to update the relief that we are requesting. The addition that we would like to put on to our house is exactly the same as what we presented 6.5 months ago in April. And that is the primary reason that we are here. There is an additional thing that we have updated. We would also like to put a front door portico that would cover our front stoop. And so we are here for the portico and also to update the relief that we are requesting for the addition, which was previously approved by the zoning hearing board in April.
Okay, and does page 7 of your exhibit A1 summarize?
Yes,
the
it
difference?
summarizes the differences, exactly, yes. Right, and so based on the newer survey that was done, which we believe to be more accurate than what was the plot plan that we used in April, because the setback lines shifted, we don't need a variance for the side yard encroachment anymore, so that's not relevant. But because they shifted, we need a larger relief for our front secondary yard. And also, there was a sort of a existing building coverage recalculation that was done by the surveyor, and that was larger than what we had had when the architects did the plot plan in April. And so that's...
Jennifer, tell us a little bit about the portico.
Sure, yeah, so I'll tell you about the portico. So basically, on page 2 of Exhibit A1, we have kind of a cartoon of where the portico would go. So it's a small portico. It would cover basically the front stoop. We would like to put the portico there because it will provide rain protection, and also it will improve the curb appeal of our property here. And so what I wanted to mention here is that we would like to do this because it's, again, for those two reasons, and it is the minimum size that would be required because it's just enough to cover our front stoop. And so there are other houses in our neighborhood that have this, porticos, and so on page, just to give some examples, I give 3 examples on page 5 of Exhibit A1. So we have 3 different houses with porticos similar to what we are proposing to put on. 2 of them are on our same street, just down the street, and then 1 is on the next street over. And so the portico that we are proposing is very similar to other ones in our neighborhood. I've shown 3, that there are many others that are there. And so this is the minimum that we would need just to cover our front stoop so we don't get rained on, during these torrential rainstorms that we've been having lately. And so So about the portico, so if we look at the portico, if you look on the plot plan, which is Exhibit A2, you'll see, so we have a diagonal setback line on our lot. And so it's measured on that plot plan. I'll try to zoom in here a bit. So our house, as it stands right now, is already non-conforming. And so we are if we put this front portico on, it would encroach into the front secondary setback, ranging from 9.7 feet to 10.8 feet for like the width of our front stoop. And so that is why we're requesting relief for that encroachment. And so for the other, for the addition, it's the same exact addition, it's just we had to update the numbers. And so because we have this diagonal setback line, it's encroaching from 5.6 to 7.0 feet. And so that we are here also because the building coverage with the portico and with the survey added some additional building coverage beyond what we had before. That's updated the number to 4.2%. We're requesting to go 4.2% beyond because of those reasons.
And I have a question for you, Arnie, that I can ask in the open. Because we're sort of reapproving the addition, should we incorporate, or should they request that we incorporate the transcript from the prior or the original hearing into this case? Because there's really no testimony about the addition or anything on the record on this matter.
As of yet.
I think they, didn't
Are you
plan.
going to give any testimony on the addition or just?
I can go through the whole case again.
Or
I
you
mean,
could-
I have also, I have,
Or we could say
Or
incorporate
you
all the
could
previous.
Incorporate all the
Yes.
previous.
that would be
Yeah.
the easier thing,
All right.
yes,
Yes.
yes, thank you, yes,
So
thank you.
requesting that we incorporate the prior testimony with the prior record in connection with this application as it relates to the addition.
Yes, thank you very much. We are
And what was, wait a minute, what was that matter number? I'm just looking, you had a copy of the order.
2304,
04?
I believe. Let me check the number to be sure. Z23-04 is the previous.
So the record, along with the exhibit, and I don't have the exhibit list from the original case here, so if there's duplicate A1, I'm sure there's duplicate A1s and A2, but
If we can distinguish that based on what the transcript is per that hearing in that.
okay.
that-
So that record's
Yeah, or just,
incorporated.
it would be a modification of that if necessary.
Right, so that record, together with the exhibits, is incorporated into this hearing, so we don't need to go through all that again.
Okay, okay.
You have a question?
Go ahead.
No,
Okay.
my question was going to be whether this should be more fairly viewed as a modification or amendment of the prior application and testimony and exhibits and
Yeah,
in our order, rather than a separate case that we're incorporating.
and I think that would be accurate, given the fact that testified just now, that there's nothing different in the addition. It's just based on the actual setback
Well,
lines.
we're past that, because it was listed as a new matter, as a case number, so.
But that's fine, but we can incorporate, so.
Question? Billy?
I just wanted to make sure I understood in your, because the impervious coverage went up a little bit, so on page 3 of Exhibit A1, I just want to make sure, when we get down into lines H, square footage of driveway, you say there it's 0 because 266 existing driveway will be removed. So looking at the picture on page 2 of A1, the driveway that we see in this, what would appear to be your front yard.
Yes, that would be.
That's coming out.
That is coming
That's
out.
to be removed.
Yes.
But on page A2, or Exhibit A2, I'm sorry, the plot plan, you're showing a new walkway that currently is not paved to the street. But you're removing it the way it runs parallel to the front of the house. That's what is being removed in the next line,
That is correct.
which says that 119 square feet of existing 177 will be removed. That's what connects your walkway from your garage door now to your front door?
Exactly, so that brick walkway that you see on page 2 will be taken out.
Right.
And then we'll have a walkway, which is shown here, it will come straight out. Instead of, like, see this, I mean, this is what is existing, this sort of gray line right here, this gray rectangle is our existing brick walkway from the driveway, because this is our current garage and the driveway is here. We're removing this and removing that, and then putting the walkway to the sidewalk here, and then putting a side entry garage.
Right, okay. And really, the added impervious is the bump out into your rear yard of the addition, and the fact that your new driveway, which will have to kind of loop around, is bigger than your existing driveway.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Jess?
My only question would be, would you accept a condition that the portico not be enclosed in the future?
Oh, yeah, you mean on the sides?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, just a roof is all we want, yes,
Roof. And it-
absolutely.
It'll have columns, though? as
It'll
your-
have columns.
Okay. And it'll be, as you testified, it'll be
It will
similar?
look like the three examples on page 5 of Exhibit A1. So it will be like a triangle with the columns.
Got it. And then any utilities other than just lighting?
No.
Okay. No other question.
Ed?
Yeah, the question I have is on our previous order. And number 2, a roof where the porch must not be constructed, and the porch must not be enclosed in the future. But your drawing doesn't have a porch, so what?
Yeah, so I think what was meant was the patio. So we are, part of the new impervious that we would put down would be a patio in front of the addition. And so that's shown as here as proposed patio on Exhibit A2.
And so my understanding was that we do not put a roof over that. And we were asked a question on that before, and we plan it to be just an open air type of thing.
Okay. So the reference for porch should be patio.
Yeah.
As by the drawing you've submitted for this application.
That is correct.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Jessica?
No questions.
And neither do I. Anything else you guys would like to add? No. Don't think me crazy, but I'm gonna ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail, anyone present that received regular mail, any other residents of Haverford Township? With that, any other questions? We'll close the record on this case, and a decision will be rendered either this evening. If not this evening, then at our next regularly scheduled hearing on November 16th, but we're gonna do it tonight.
All right. Thank you
I
very much for your
expect
time.
Is there any, should we go off the record? This, go straight to a vote on minor. I know where people stand on this. Go. All right. Further and no enclosure. Completed it, which sort of gives a time extension just by its nature, but it is what it is. Bonanza. All right. Moving right along. With respect to case Z 23-26, Lanark Country Club, I won't read the rest of the description into the record unless someone specifically requests that I do so. Jessica, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
Ed, are you prepared?
Yes.
Bill? Oh, you're
No, I'm
recused. Sorry. Jesse?
Yes.
And so am I. Jesse, do you want to take that decision?
Mr. Chairman, with regards to case Z 23-26, I would vote to deny the requested relief.
Okay. Jessica?
I agree.
Ed?
I concur.
And so do I. That application is denied 4-0. With respect to case Z 23-27, Jennifer Lucas, right? I'll get it right one of these times. And Jeffrey Persh, I won't read the rest of the description into the record unless someone specifically requests that I do so. Jessica, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
Ed, are you?
Yes.
Bill?
I am.
Jesse? And so am I. Bill, would you please take that decision?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with respect to case C 23-27, I would vote to approve the requested variances subject to the following conditions. First, there shall be no enclosure of the portico on the sides of the portico, and the utilities would be limited to electricity in the portico. The application would be, the applicants will comply with the approval and conditions in our prior case Z 23-04 for the subject property, and in further compliance with the notes of testimony from tonight. And lastly, the project will be completed within 1 year of this approval.
Jesse?
Agree.
Jessica?
I agree.
Ed?
I agree.
And so do I. That application is approved 5-0.
And then we have
Minutes.
minutes from,
Prescott?
so Ernie submitted minutes from our October 19th meeting. Bill made some corrections, and I would like to make a motion to move those into the record.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have minutes. Any other administrative matters? Anything to discuss? Then we are adjourned. I suppose we will reconvene the meeting of the zoning hearing board of November 2nd, 2023. Ernie, you want to address this matter?
There was a matter that was intended to be listed this evening, Z23-23. It was not on the agenda. However, the board just recently received at its request proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law from both attorneys for the applicant and the intervener, and the board indicating to both parties that it needed time to review those proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law and discuss legal Impact, with those proposed findings with me, has decided to continue that case for a decision to the November 16th hearing date. It was not on the agenda, but we just want to make sure we clarify that for the record.
Okay. Unless there's something else, we are adjourned.
Thank you.